What else is new? A user and or client says, "Hey, look, there's a cool new software. I want to use that," but doesn't actually like bother reading up on it
Why
or
would
like
you
what it
ever
does.
research a new solution, Stephen, when you see shiny new thing? I want shiny new thing. Let's go get shiny new thing.
Hype-driven development.
Is that a thing?
Yes,
Yes.
that's very much a thing.
Unfortunately, so.
Gross.
Yeah, whatever the new shiny thing is that people are like, if Twitter and Reddit are joining hands and say this is beautiful, that's hype-driven development.
Now, are you saying that this hype-driven development exists on the consumer side or on the developer side?
Oh, very much so on the consumer side too.
On both sides, then.
On both sides.
Every side.
On both sides.
We have ChatGPT powered scooters. That is the definition of hype-driven development.
How does that even work?
Oh,
I have no idea, but I saw an ad for it.
This requires some.
Can we get Bard-powered scooters?
Only if it sings to me while it's going.
No,
Not
I think
that
you
Bard.
have to sing to it to keep it going. You have to be the bard on the scooter.
Not that Bard.
What type of bard?
The AI Bard.
Oh, good lord.
Oh, that's not Bard anymore. That's like Gemini or something
Yeah,
like
it's-
that, isn't it?
I mean
Yeah.
the old one that only lasted a very short time because reasons.
I mean,
It's
This-
Twitter's fault.
this one will die just as fast because it's owned by Google. So
Oh wait, no, I said the
No,
wrong
it
thing.
won't.
Not Bard.
It won't die just as fast.
What was the one that?
It's just they're gonna push it incredibly hard. People are going to use it. Some people are gonna absolutely love it, and then Google is gonna rug pull it. That's how it works on most of their products.
What was the one that Google released and then it went rogue?
That
and
was
then they
Gemini.
shut-
Oh,
that was
yeah,
Gemini.
Gemini.
Okay, I meant to say Gemini powered scooters, but I messed it up. Sorry.
I mean, it used to be called Bard.
Oh, okay.
So you were
They
Was
still
you were
kind of
right,
right,
just-
kind of wrong.
Yeah, both ways.
Kinda-
You're still
Just-
correct.
It's
you're
ki-
right.
it's
You're
kinda-
just like 6 months.
It's kind of like Microsoft
Yeah.
renaming
Pretty normal for me.
ChatGPT to Copilot.
It's the same thing.
I was getting so
That's because
sick of
it would
hearing-
be copyright infringement because they don't own it or something like that.
I was so sick of seeing the word Copilot today. I was studying, and
But you need a co-pilot.
this Microsoft Cert material, every little piece of it, they have a section at the bottom of every study section of, and here's what Copilot does in this. I don't care. Yes, I know Copilot did. Here's a thing that does a thing, and Copilot's integrated, and it does part of this thing for you. I don't care. I really don't care, Microsoft.
You don't want AI just shoved down your throat.
I'm not
and
going to
implemented
market
everywhere.
this, whether you like it or not.
AI.
Are you telling me right now in your casual everyday conversations at the grocery store that you don't like interacting with people anyways, you're not pushing the great news of Copilot?
No, I'm not. Am I defying the wishes of our Microsoft overlord?
Obviously. If you
Dang
are
it.
not having constant conversations about how Windows 11 is great, Copilot is amazing, and the best way to chat with all your friends is Teams, you're doing everything wrong.
Well, dadgummit.
You're not summarizing somebody's email and then generating a response so that they can summarize it.
If it wasn't,
You're not living in the new dystopia.
if it wasn't in just in my general feelings, super sketchy, like the actual like how it does this, the method by which it does this, the general idea of like for some of our meetings and stuff, having something to summarize and make action items like automatically based on an important meeting that we had, that sounds good
Honestly,
in theory.
it would be phenomenal.
But the fact that it would have to collect our voices and collect all the data it needs in order to compile this, and then it's going to be stored on Microsoft servers forever, I don't like that.
See, that I completely get, but the one feature that if we are throwing out like project dates or completion dates and have that automatically added
Yeah.
to my calendar with a bunch of reminders, love that.
Yeah,
that
that's
is-
a really handy feature.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Great feature. Would highly adopt it.
But it would be
If
able
it,
to.
if it didn't mean signing my soul away.
Yeah, it would be able to recreate a audio digital version of you after one meeting.
Exactly. Speaking of audio visual. Which chat did he put it into?
Let's chat, not the show chat.
Oh.
Oops, sorry.
How dare you?
You
You
had
Jeez.
one job.
Literally one job.
You're
You're
the
in
producer.
I have
charge
more
of
than
all
one
of
job.
this.
Thank you very
You're
much.
the producer.
I know that means I have more than one job.
Speaking of producing, welcome to the Hostility Morning Podcast. I'm your host, John, joined here today by...
Nathan.
Matthew.
Steven.
Ian, John, that was very quiet. It was odd.
What?
You didn't back away from your microphone like 30 feet and then come sprinting up and then just like...
It's true.
I'm tired. It's been a very
You,
grueling
did,
last
you didn't
3
Happy
weeks.
Gilmore the intro.
I did not have... listen, next week, I'll give me one of those energy drinks that you have, and I'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
fully prepared.
I'll give you a little swig. Oh, God.
Yeah,
A
this
little swig might kill you.
John said earlier that he's taking up running again. We should have him coming in and running like Forrest Gump, and then he just goes into the mic with it.
Just slams through the
Yeah.
door. Just comes in out of breath.
We can do something like that. We're gonna
No, but
need
then
a
we have to
really
sit
long
in a-
XLR.
Then we have to
cable.
sit in an enclosed room with him all sweaty and stinky for an hour.
Hey, you guys ate Taco Bell and decided to come into the
Okay,
enclosed rooms.
gun to your
drinking
head.
and
You
sweating.
have to choose between one of the two. Ian and I and Taco Bell or Sweaty John?
Sweaty John's.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell?
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because there is a non-0% chance that both of you will keep it in for the entire time period. There is a complete 100% chance to have to smell him the entire time.
Just hold your pores closed
Yes.
for the duration of the
Oh,
episode.
darn. How can you pre-clog your
I'll take
pores
the
before
gamble.
this?
Just bathe in like aluminum deodorant.
No, it's. I mean, it's fine. We got a bunch of olive oil in the kitchen area. I'll just
Oh,
lube up
God.
before.
Never mind.
Oily
Oh.
John. Would you pick Sweaty John or oil?
Oh.
With the hair too.
Neither.
With the hair.
Well, this went off the rails quickly.
I mean, this is what happens when we don't have an organized show notes. Speaking of
That's true.
anything but organized, Matthew, Steven,
Hmm.
heard you guys have been having it a little interesting or rough the last couple of weeks, where you may have had a few interactions or perspectives that you may or may not want to share publicly exclusively, but at least want to express some of your frustration. So please, this is currently your safe space. This is your element where you can openly discuss this with only a few caveats that you have to help edit all the things out that you're not allowed to say.
So I can say whatever I want.
You can say whatever you want, but this is going to be on you to cut all that out. And if anything slips through the crack, audience, you know who to blame.
That's fair. I'll let Matthew go first, though. I feel like it's just, I can see it just pouring out.
I'm
Yeah.
your therapist. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I had a help desk ticket come to me, or I had the help desk send me a ticket the other day.
How
that
do you feel about that?
Normally I would be fine with it, but this one was a ticket that had nothing to do with me in particular. It could have been solved at the help desk. I'll get into that, but I don't know. It's just the general what had transpired before it was sent to me was a little disappointing. So the issue is that the user was trying to log into one of our portals, and the website, like the header loaded, and then it was just a blank page. Okay, so it's kind of weird. So they're logged in, they can get to the site, but it is headers there, nothing else. This is a third-party application that we're hosting, so there's not much that I can do with it to begin with, right? It's not like this is an application that I created or that I can just go in and fix. So I'm like, all right, something's fishy here. So I read through the ticket, and it was 20 responses, or 20, back and forth emails of, hey, try this. I tried this, it didn't work. Hey, try this. I tried this, it didn't work. And it was all in the same theme of like resetting the browser cache, restarting the browser, stuff like that. Just kind of back and forth. And I'm like, all right. And a couple of the things is that they didn't verify the user. So at least when I was at the help desk, right? The first thing that you do if somebody emails with a non-org address, you got to verify that they are who they say they are, right?
Correct.
You mean get like important information, important contact information?
Username, ID,
When
number.
has
Yeah.
it ever gone poorly in any cybersecurity forum that you impersonate another individual and then all of a sudden all the casinos are down. That's
No,
never
people
happened.
would never do that.
That's never happened.
No.
So, and like in their defense, this wasn't necessarily an issue that would have required verification. It was just, you know,
Good
whoever
practice.
it was.
Yeah, it's a good
great
SOP to
practice to
follow.
do it. And if they were at the point that they were escalating it to one of us developers, then at that point, part of it is checking to make sure that parts of their account are set up correctly. And if that's the case, I need to have their information. So I had asked for the information, which should have been one of the first things that happened, or at very least the last thing that happened at the help desk before it was sent to me. So that was kind of annoying. And then there was just a bunch of back and forth of text, right? Like the user did, to their credit, they sent a screenshot of here's what I see, like, you know, header blank. It wasn't a screenshot. It was like a photo of the laptop.
A screen capture via a cell phone.
Yeah. So, and now granted, it was a half decent one. Like it was at an angle, but you could see everything on the screen.
It wasn't where they took it from like 3 feet away at an off angle, and then you're having to pretty much like.
It's focusing on the cat in the background. So
Yeah,
the camera had a
I
fingerprint
got a
on
few of
it.
those a couple weeks ago, like on error messages. I'm like, I don't know what this is because I can't read the message header because it looks like you were trying to take a picture of the eclipse from a phone that you bought back in 1992. It's amazing.
I would like to see a camera phone from back then. That would be interesting.
I don't think they had any
They
back
didn't have,
then.
no, first camera phones were
Like mid 2000s.
early 2000s.
That sounds
No,
about right.
the first let's see.
Because it would have had to have been a
that-
digital camera,
it was
unless there were phones
the-
with film cameras.
like
I don't know.
Motorola's and LG phones. No, wait, no. My first LG flip phone did not have a camera. The one after that did. So it would have been 2004 or 5, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, about mid 2000s.
In the olden days.
So anyway, to their credit, they sent a picture, but there were no screenshots after that. And to the user's credit, the help desk didn't ask for any verification. So it was just, hey, try this. They said, okay, I tried that. It didn't work. Yes, Stephen.
Quick question.
You don't have to raise your hand here.
Does
It's okay.
this help desk technician, do they not have a means by which to remote into said user's computer?
Not this one.
Okay.
Not this one. And I can't I'm trying to not give away too much.
Okay.
But yeah, that was not an option. So that would have solved,
A little bit.
theoretically, that could have solved some of it, but this was not that wasn't an option for this particular user. So anyway, they are going back and forth and all that. And I was taught, right? Rule number 1 is don't trust what the user says. Okay.
Always.
And that's
Yes.
always. And that's no matter where you are in tech. Don't trust what the user says. So my first response was verifying the user. And then after that, double checking that their account was set up as well as, you know, I could understand it. Because this was a little out of my wheelhouse. My team's boss is out for this week, so all the tickets that would normally go to him are going to the rest of us. So that was also part of, I think, why this was a thing where instead of filtering through my boss and then to one of us, it was instead just directly to one of us. So it was like, all right.
Love to see that.
Yep, super fun. So I could have sent it back, but I didn't. I was being nice. So I asked the user for their account information. I got it. And then they were like, props to the user. I sent them a list of things to try. Okay. So I looked at the screenshot. I see everything. They're running Windows 11 in their taskbar. They
Is it on
have
the left side or the right side?
centered.
Let's see it.
Weirdo.
Well, you can only go center or left. If it's on the bottom of the screen.
Sorry, I asked that wrong. The Windows icon, is it on the left side or the center?
It was centered.
And the taskbar, is it on the bottom of the screen, or did they
It was on
be
the
a
bottom of the
heathen
screen.
and actually move it somewhere else?
It was on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
I typically hide it. Like I don't like having it there. So that you hover over the bottom of the screen and then it comes up.
Be gone with you, taskbar.
Because
don't-
once you start using a application launcher for everything, so in the case of Windows, PowerToys run, and then you're not clicking on stuff on your taskbar, you don't need the taskbar at that point.
Except when you have 72 windows open and you have to flick through all of them.
some of
the
us
taskbar.
don't open
It's all
72
tab.
windows at a time.
You have to. It's part of the chaos work.
I usually have a browser open on desktop 1. I have my editor open on desktop 2, and then I have Teams and Outlook open on desktop 3. And this is if I'm just working single monitor. If I'm working triple monitor, then I'll usually have like documentation on the left and then notes on the right, and those just are pinned, so to speak. So they
See,
move no matter, they
here's a
stay
great-
no matter what desktop I move
Great
to.
way for you then. You should just go ahead and get that neural chip installed. That way, you don't even have to use your keyboard or mouse anymore. It's all just thinking.
I like the keyboard though.
You get rid of it. You don't need it anymore. Now it's an inefficiency.
That's true. That's true. So anyway, back to the user. The user was doing a great job. So I sent them. So I see the taskbar before I was derailed. I see the taskbar. On the taskbar is a NordVPN logo.
Oh, good lord.
So I'm thinking, okay, I've had issues where I'm running a VPN, right? And websites don't run correctly or things are wonky. You know, you just get these weird issues. So my first thought was, okay, did anybody ask for this person to turn it off? So I scroll back up, go through the ticket, and then, you know, just quickly looked, and then I Control F just to make sure I didn't miss anything, and nothing. So I was like, all right, let's try that first. So I said, hey, try this. I to the user, I said, hey, I see a NordVPN logo in your taskbar. Try turning that off and then reloading the page for the website. See if that works. If that doesn't, then I gave them a couple other things to try with some more detailed explanation of this is why this is important. So like running in a private window, that's something that's recommended a lot, but usually people don't tell the user why this is important. If you, for the users out there, if you are asked, run something in a private browser, typically what the help desk is trying to get at is, do you have any browser extensions running or anything kind of configured weird?
Or some credential stuff that's
Yeah.
bad, things of that
Yeah,
nature.
like this, that's a good way of clearing it without like just nuking the browser, you know, unless you're a
Delete all the cookies. You don't need those cookies
yeah.
anymore.
But I like cookies.
Can't have the
the-
cookies anymore.
Are they chocolate chip?
No.
I don't care then.
the best browser extension that
Oatmeal
I've
raisin, they're fake chocolate chip.
Ew.
the best browser extension that I found, aside from Dark Reader and uBlock Origin, my number 3 would be
AdGuard.
the
AdGuard. No, not
no,
uBlock
uBlock Origin.
No.
uBlock Origin has been fighting the fight against YouTube ads. All right,
So was AdGuard.
I
And you can self-host AdGuard with AdGuard Home. It's great.
okay, I don't know. I like uBlock
You have
Origin.
to turn AdGuard off in YouTube.
That-
They make you.
Now,
As of a month ago.
I haven't had
Really?
that.
See, uBlock, they had their
But of course, I
for a
use
while
iPhone
there.
as well. So
YouTube and uBlock were going back and forth, but uBlock, like within like just a few minutes of Google pushing something out, at least on my end, Google pushing something out, I could just update the filters for uBlock, and then boom, I'm back to ad for YouTube.
see, and here's the annoyance. I'll go on the small tangent here of
We're already on a small
That's
tangent. This
okay.
is a tangent off the tangent.
as soon as YouTube Premium came out, I've had that subscription since day one, and I will tell you, out of all the subscriptions I've ever had, that is by far, next to Amazon Prime, the best one.
I used to have back when it was YouTube Red.
Yes,
I had YouTube
Oh,
Red because it
God.
was bundled in for when it first came out. It was bundled in with Google Play Music.
Yep.
Which is what I had before Spotify. And then when I moved to Spotify, and I somewhere in there, I discovered the beauty of ad blockers. Never went back. I'm not going to shell out money for YouTube. I'll just give up YouTube before I shell out money for it.
the biggest feature in what I did, because this was before I actually went to dedicated podcast apps on my phone, is every single podcast I used to listen to was always on YouTube. So I
Mhm.
would start the podcast, I want to lock my phone and either go for a run or have it on in the car, things of that nature. And the biggest thing that they locked behind the paywall was
Downloads and background play.
background play.
That's what a third-party app is for, sir. You
I
use
don't-
Android.
I don't like the third-party
You
apps.
use
It's not as
Android.
good of an experience half the time.
It is. It's not,
Not.
for browsing. Like in most cases, I agree. Like NewPipe has come a long way, but used to it was very clunky. Like you might as well just use the browser at that point. But if you're just queuing up a video in quotation marks just to listen to it, then a third-party app would make a lot of sense there because you're not there for the browsing experience. You're there for just, I have the video.
Yes, but
I'm playing it
now
in the background.
I get all the nice new beta features like them playing with HDR, because my goodness, YouTube's HDR implementation is actually pretty dang good.
The premium bit rate is nice.
It is.
It is
I
really
have
nice.
noticed a significant difference on the ones that you're they're uplifting on that bit rate. Like honestly, because after recently watching the one of the shows on Amazon, I didn't realize how high a bit rate that they're pushing their content through. It's their 4K is like actually good 4K content.
Their sound is still lacking, but yeah, I
A
agree.
bit. Anyway,
So to back up to the previous sidetrack, as far as browser extensions go, I have number one is AdBlock. Number 2 is Dark Reader. Number 3 is any plugin or extension that will let you clear cookies for just a specific site without you having to go search for it. Those are a absolute godsend because we ran into this at work quite a bit where we would have issues where ADFS would get screwed up and cookies, you'd have to, clear it. And instead of clearing the entire browser cache and deleting everything, you just do it for just the org stuff. That changed my life because then not having to go back through and sign into a bunch of different stuff that you had open and just having to do the
ADFS is so
SSO
fun.
for work. Like
Yep.
it was great. So anyway, back to the VPN side of things. So I sent him the user, I sent the instructions for here's what I need you to do. Start with a VPN, then here's a couple things for the browser, and then here's a couple other things. I prefaced all this with please send screenshots of what you did and what the results were so that I can, I can see if we missed anything, like I can see if there's, any kind of additional information. And instead of relying on said user to just take pictures of the screen, I sent them instructions on here's how you take a screenshot with Windows 11. There's your options. Bless their hearts. This was an amazing user. They come back to me with like screenshots, like actual screenshots, full screen,
not on
everything.
their phone. They didn't
Not
take
on their phone.
a
No,
photo
they
this time.
followed instructions
Good.
That's
very,
impressive.
very well. I was very happy. So they sent it back to me and said, hey,
But I'm still
this
wondering
isn't-
why you're frustrated about this.
this is more, I was frustrated with the help desk, and then
Okay.
I had to go back and forth with the user instead of the help desk doing this. So the user comes back, says, hey, I tried all this, it's still not working. So I said, all right, can we verify that the VPN is in fact closed? I explained, here's what the taskbar is, or here's what the system tray is. Check the system tray. If there's a NordVPN logo there, right click it, exit, kill it, turn it off, do what you need to do.
Uninstall it.
Just
Wipe your
nuke
OS.
it.
Throw your
Um,
laptop away. Get
yeah.
a new one.
So I was like, this is that. Can you try that? Like 10, 15 minutes later, they say, hey, that worked. Thanks. It's all good now. So I was like, yes, there we go. It was just the VPN. And this wasn't something that I spent, a lot of time going back and forth with the user and saying, hey, and then I stumbled across this. This is the first email that was sent to the help desk included the screenshot that had the NordVPN logo in the screenshot.
Mhm.
So I wasn't working off of information that I got that the help desk didn't. I was working off the exact same information. I solved the problem, and it wasn't a developer problem.
I do have a question. Like,
Yes.
nothing against NordVPN, but do you guys have a corporate VPN that your users have access to?
Yes, but this user's not subject to that. So
Gotcha.
So this is
Yeah.
is this an employee of the workplace of your
No.
organization?
Oh, okay.
So this is like a contractor, or are they
more or less, yeah. For the sake of
So-
argument, we'll call them a
for the sake
contractor.
of
They're
obfuscation.
peripherally-
Yeah.
they're peripherally related to
Yes.
the organization? Okay.
They have credentials. They have to log in, but they're not subject to the.
So
VPN
I have
requirements.
two things. One, to be fair, I'll
be
play
fair.
devil's advocate a
To be
bit.
fair.
VPNs are one of those things. So
What's a VPN, Steven?
virtual private network.
Good.
What is that?
But in
we have to
today's
circle back.
world,
Matthew, what was ADFS?
That is Active Directory.
Federated
federated service.
Services.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, you didn't know that one?
I knew the AD stood for Active
I was gonna say,
Directory.
we
Yeah.
just call it
Active-
AD, but
ADFS is actually so. I can't get into the
you
weeds too much
walked
on
into
this. One.
this.
So
You asked the question.
Active Directory is obviously your users, your
Yeah.
computers, machines of that nature. Federated services are the additional services that you tie back into Active Directory. So things like single sign-on, MFA policies, things that you
Okay.
have on top of that. If you have replication-based policies, it can go on top of that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
GPO, things of that, well, group policy objects, things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. So I will say, to be fair, um,
You're the help desk advocate.
I mean, so I encountered VPNs as we know them, fairly early on in my career. And I will say, coming in as a green tech, that's one of the things that it took me a while to grasp. I mean,
Mhm.
not ever hearing about. Now, this is 2017, so this is prior to 2020, when a lot more people really learned what a VPN was. It became more mainstream. So I mean, it was a bit of a learning curve, and it took me some time to grasp it and learn it and learn how to set them up like that.
Mhm.
Really wrap my mind around it. They're fairly, and today, even at that time in today's day and age, they're fairly prevalent in our world, in the IT, the tech world. Most businesses of any size have to use them to some degree. But with the advent of personal VPNs like Nord and PIA, VPNs simply with the intention of
Not a sponsor, by the way.
creating anonymity and masking your location, those style of VPNs. Most people didn't really have to know or deal with them, that
Mhm.
no knowledge of them. But in my opinion, those have really muddied the waters and really caused a headache for us, because they're the thing that the most laymen know about, or are familiar with, but they are completely different.
I'm not hearing you through my
Then-
headphones. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Did you mute me?
Yeah, he was like gone there for a little bit.
No, I could still hear him.
Anyway,
You just couldn't.
I had to talk to Ian for
so,
a second, so I had
So
to.
you muted my headphones then.
It's known as a listening feature here, so as I'm
He's
running the
fiddling with
board,
the
I can
board.
talk directly with him without my microphone being picked up.
So VPNs like Nord and PIA and things like that are the thing that most layman users, most just users in general, are familiar with. They're the things that are advertised and pushed, and they talk about the features and stuff like that, and so they know roughly what those are, and kind of they think they know what they do. The VPNs that we deal with on a regular basis are not completely different, but pretty much functionally different than that. We're using a VPN not for general web browsing anonymity and IP masking and stuff like that. It is to create secure tunnels through the internet for remote users to access company resources.
Mhm.
So either through a hardware site-to-site VPN between two firewalls for two different locations, or through a client VPN, a software you have on your laptop or phone.
Like Cisco Connect.
Yes, like Cisco
AnyConnect.
AnyConnect. That then connects back to a firewall on site so that you can access company resources. But before, I guess we just didn't really have to explain anything. We just said the 3 letters VPN, and they just kind of brushed it off and didn't really care.
Because
Now,
it was a
since
it was a
there's-
company resource that they didn't care what the company resource was. Like all
But that's
IT
still
had to
the
tell
ca-
them. Only thing IT had to tell them was you need this to connect to server.
But that's still the
Have this
case.
on.
But now that they have this knowledge of these other style of VPNs, they think they know what we mean when we say VPN. And I've encountered this several times. I actually encountered the exact same situation you've talked about.
Mhm.
But also just having to explain this to a user because the user got curious and thought they knew what they were talking about, and it was starting to cause an issue with like what I was trying to help them with.
Yeah.
And so I had to correct them, even though I didn't ask to have to correct them. They basically forced me to. Anyway, sorry, that's just my little complaint about, while things like these VPNs, I don't want to say new, it's just a different type. They're fine, they're great, and
Yeah.
it's fine that people use them. It's just they're not the same. When we in our day-to-day work refer to a VPN,
They're being used for different purposes.
9.5 times out of
Yeah.
10, we're not talking about that. And when we tell you to turn it off, it's because it's messing with ours, or it's messing with
Yeah.
something that you need for work.
It's that difference of you have the corporate/business VPN, and then you have the personal VPN, and there needs to be a line of delineation on the user side of which one is applicable for what you're doing. When it comes to anything while you're doing on corporate time, you need to be on this connection, because if you're not on this connection, you're going to break a bunch of stuff. If like this kind of tailors back to some of the BYOD discussions we've had before. Like a lot of them that we push out, we provide a corporate VPN for you. But yeah, it's a personal device. You could have PIA, NordVPN, or up to the other VPN providers out there.
I just want to put in. We've been talking about the big ones just for the sake of conversation. I want to put in Molvad as like
That's fine.
in the conversation there.
Who?
Molvad VPN.
Never heard of it.
That well, hopefully people have now, and we'll look into it.
I personally use PIA, and I've used them for years.
Also not a
they've been
sponsor.
phenomenal. No, not a
None
sponsor
of
at
these
all.
are sponsors, but we said like Nord and Express, and then granted, Nord was like part of the.
Yeah, I forgot about Express. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nord, Express, and private internet access are, I guess, the three big ones.
Yeah.
But
Molvad, MULLVAD. It was recommended. I forget the YouTube channel that I was watching, but basically they have a much better privacy policy. And if you want to genuinely be like anonymous, it is from a interacting with the company standpoint, it's a better alternative to especially like Nord or
Oh, yeah. Well, then
yeah.
I don't think any of us here are going to actually recommend NordVPN.
Guess we can kiss that concert or that sponsorship
fine.
goodbye.
Unless they want to change their mind.
You know, yeah.
I mean, they slip us a check, you know. maybe.
Hey, no, we can't say we can be bought that easily, Matthew.
right.
That's
You
not
just
how
cut
that
it in
works.
post.
That's
Cut it in
not how
post.
any of that works.
So yeah.
We
Anyway,
still have to have the
moral of the
allure
story.
that we're
That we have morals and, we have like some upstanding here that eventually, Matthew, we are going to have to put a line in the sand of going, X company sucks, X company is great, here's why, and here's our experiences behind it. And not just because, oh, you paid us.
Okay, for the listeners, I think we can all agree on this. If we ever take a Raid Shadow Legends, not a sponsorship, I think they can well and truly believe that we have sold out at that point.
Oh, no, we're not going to sell out. We're just going to say, we're doing this for the memes. 100%. If Raid Shadow
I was
Legends,
about to say I've
Like-
been practicing like the voice and everything. And
Raid
just
Shadow Legends.
ruined it.
it's going to be the most hilarious thing of us having to reenact Raid Shadow Legends in my backyard for this ad. It's going to be phenomenal.
Wait, are we gonna LARP?
We have to LARP.
Yes!
We obviously have to LARP if we're doing this.
So who's gonna be the scantily clad,
You,
well
obviously.
endowed orc lady
You
on
obviously,
the logo?
Matthew.
We
You're-
can find someone.
You're you're the most, I guess. You spoke up. It's on you.
So the second thing that I was going to talk about, the second part of that
Thank you, Steve.
is so there's the first part is on the user side of
Yeah.
familiarity and confusion, with kind of our two worlds.
The user was not the problem in the story. That's the
and,
thing.
and I'm getting to
Which
that.
is rare.
yeah. Like I was
so
proud of the user.
The second part of this is the help desk technician, and to be fair,
Technicians. This went through multiple people at the help desk.
okay, y'all's
Which gave it-
how inexperienced is your help desk? Realistically,
So that is a fair question. The at least two of the 4 names that I saw in there should have known at least a couple of things.
they
I
should
don't
have been
necessarily
around long enough to
Yeah.
kind of have that
I
troubleshooting
don't
process
necessarily
of-
expect them to pick up on the VPN thing, but I also don't feel like I'm that clever.
Because
if
I
that
will,
makes
I will
sense.
say that,
Like I feel like somebody else could have picked up on that
yeah,
too.
I will say, because again, to my point before of like when I was a new tech and picking like VPNs was one of the things that took me a little bit to get a grasp of and wrap my mind around. Now that you've thrown this other type of VPN into the mix, where more people on the personal side are using these, and as in function, they do interfere with accessing remote resources and how that process on the back end works. That is something that new techs need to be mindful of and need to be learning and including in their troubleshooting process.
Mhm.
But a new tech may or may not have seen that before and
Yeah.
have crossed that bridge yet. So
So that's the
I
thing.
will play
Thinking-
devil's advocate there.
Thinking outside the browser would have helped a little bit in this instance.
That's fair.
That's okay. But here's a little tip for you and all of our listeners here. If you have someone or a team that kind of struggles a little bit, and you're kind of helping them, providing some knowledge-based things of that nature, try this, because I've gotten some very positive results over the last few months. Implement a small, absolutely meaningless reward system. Mine is the gold star of the day.
I could go downstairs and give them some stickers.
You can do that. No, but I legitimately have been working with multiple technicians, providing some training, providing some insight, things of that nature on those, branching outside their normal workflow and knowledge base, things of that nature, right? To incentivize and continue that, yes, you got to give them some praise, but the best praise I can ever give someone is in Teams, they have a little gold star emoji. If you get the gold star emoji, you have earned the highest praise you possibly can.
How many gold stars do I have to get before I can turn them in for a cookie or a pizza or something?
About 40.
Okay.
So far, in the last 3 months I've been doing this, I've counted. I've given out over 180 of these gold stars.
Wow.
Oh, you're super easy.
No, because I am rewarding those that are doing good work.
I was waiting for you to say something like, "Oh, the reward is you get like an extra gig in your OneDrive, your organization OneDrive or something."
No, that costs money. We can't do that. No, I do something that we currently have the resources available.
We'll
This is
allocate you
even-
some
gold
more
star
space for
emoji.
email.
We can afford a gold star emoji.
this is his version of a pizza party.
A little bit. I do want to see if I can get with our marketing guy and see if I can have him at the very bottom of our signatures add a little very small subsection internally where you can start adding in all the gold stars I've given out to you. So a little gold star counter.
So instead of helmet sticker, a signature sticker.
Yes.
Wait,
That's
So you-
actually not a bad idea.
I know
you're
it's
implementing a praise system.
A little bit. A small praise system that I'm the only one that can give the praise right now.
That is ironic in so many levels.
You should stop doing gold stars and start doing cheese moons.
No, I also give out cookies. There's a cookie emoji.
There's,
that I
I'm
also
looking at it
provide.
right now. It's a cheese moon. Here, I'll put it in the
Well,
chat.
the cheese moon's not as rewarding as you get a gold
It's
star.
a moon that is cheese.
Kinda like a cheese
How is
puff.
it? How is there anything better?
It's neat, but it's not as special.
I will collect my rewards in pizza. Thank you.
I
It can
give
be
you a pizza
emoji or it can
emoji.
be physical. I'll take both.
I can do the emoji. That's easy.
The thing that I usually
There's also
take
tacos.
payment and
Hold
rewards
on.
in, they don't offer in the workplace, or they don't allow
Okay,
in the
I now
workplace,
have
so.
I have a complaint against Microsoft. I
How-
can
Just one.
Dark theme
another one.
only applies to specific applications, but SharePoint will just
Not-
blind you the moment you open it.
not I was gonna say not just applications, but just admin centers inside of 365 and Azure. When I set my default to dark mode, keep my default in dark mode everywhere I go inside of 365. Everywhere.
Good. Let the hate flow through you.
So I
It's
wanna-
it's
I'm
so
not
dumb.
the only one.
You know, my workstation sets dark mode. That's a theme that it's sent,
Yeah.
and that theme is already extended out to the browser because it's allowed to share that back and forth. So my browser's by default dark mode. Every time I log into a 365 tenant for the first time that day, admin side of 365 dark mode, great. Click on SharePoint, light mode, horrible. Azure, light mode, horrible. Exchange, light mode, horrible. Why? Defender, light mode, horrible. I set it the last time I was in there to dark mode. Why is it now I log in the very next day, it's now back to light mode?
We need to.
I'm surprised it lasts a day.
We need to start a petition that to go around to everyone, a digital petition that we can pass around to
Stop treating
mandate.
dark mode users as second-class citizens.
No, we need to sign a petition that mandates all new applications are coded to be dark mode by default.
I'm okay if it's
do
not
away
dark
with light
mode by
mode.
default. What I'm not okay with is like what we're describing here, where the settings get reset for absolutely no reason, or in the case of SharePoint, there
Doesn't have
isn't
any.
the option of dark mode.
No, I
That's
have, to, I have to
true.
use a plugin.
It's just ridiculous.
There's a plug.
Yeah, there's third-party plugin. I don't use it. I used to use it all the time. Why I don't now is because Microsoft slightly moved the menu buttons and it broke the plugin. So now the menu buttons are no longer visible.
Okay, so I also want to complain. If we want to complain about Microsoft, okay, I can save this for a little bit later.
But
if
let's
you
save that
have
for a
something.
little bit later.
But on the
Let's-
same theme of dark mode and like worse applications, remind
I'm
me
here
to come
for this
back to that.
conversation.
Oh, really?
well,
Okay.
well, what about the VPN? Are we done with the VPN?
Are you done with the VPN thing?
I'm done with it. I was disappointed with the help desk. Now, granted, I want to preface this. I probably should have said this a lot sooner. I like the people at the help desk, right? Like I typically get along with them.
They have
This was
their
just
moments.
one ticket that was just kind of annoying. But the user, I did, blessing in disguise, I guess. I did get to have a good interaction with the user. So you know how last time we were talking about I want to leave the normies behind. this was not a normie. Like as far as using NordVPN, that was a very normie move.
That's a level
But
above
the-
normie. That
it's-
is a level above
using
normie.
a
this point, I would
VPN
disagree.
maybe, but if you're using the Walmart of VPNs, like if you think of
It's like someone who's going out and
ad-
buying McAfee or Norton at this
Yeah.
point.
I still consider that a level above a normie.
Then
I
you
consider
have way higher standards than we do.
I consider a normie somebody who
standards?
doesn't
lower standards.
lower standards. I assume a
Way lower
normie does
standards.
none of that. To me, a normie does
That's
none
below a
of that.
normie. There is a level below normie.
I would
consider
say
that normie.
Check.
the
It's called a troglodyte.
putting the NordVPN on your system and installing it, running it, I guess setting up an account and everything, that puts you at the upper echelons of Normieville, I guess. But you're still considered somewhat of normie. But
You're
the
a
way
power
that
normie.
the way that the user followed directions, like exactly how I asked, with no pushback, no complaining or anything like that. They even went from taking screenshots. This is the first time I've ever seen this. From taking screenshots with their phone, pictures with their phone, to actual full screen screenshots. It blew my mind.
That is
I was
refreshing.
not expecting to see
Yeah.
that. So I did get it was a refreshing interaction with the user, but it was still really annoying that it was interspersed through a bunch of other random questions and tickets and stuff that I was getting. It was, so it was a weird situation for sure. But there is, if there's anything to learn, there is hope out there for some users.
Yeah, when you've been doing, especially when you've been in, and this is where I would draw, similarity between development and say IT work. When you've been doing it for any amount of time and you've made that first or second step into advancement past the help desk,
Mhm.
no matter the situation, it's just unavoidable that your first reaction to something like this, there's a frustration when there's unneeded escalation, especially when you discover that later on and you're like, seriously, why did this get escalated to me?
Yeah.
There was no reason for it. I mean, there's just that initial
And it's not
feeling
like
of frustration because of just
Yeah.
the fact that it could have been taken care of by the tier 1 or tier 2.
it's not like I
um,
get a ton of these, so that to also add that in there. It's not like the help desk is just constantly just escalate. This was just one out of
Should feel lucky.
a bajillion tickets that I normally get. So
There are places where that does happen. Worse.
Yeah. So anyway, the complaining about Microsoft. So Microsoft has this track record of, with the developer tools, you've got Visual Studio, which is the beast, and then you've got SQL Server Management Studio, which is the database side of things, which is built off of Visual Studio, but it is a worse product. Like Visual Studio, the actual IDE, Integrated Development Environment. You're welcome, Nathan.
Thank you.
It has a pretty great theming system, great plugins. It's somewhat extensible. You've got options that you can mess with, all sorts of stuff like that. SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio, which is built off of Visual Studio, at least now it is. I don't remember exactly when they swapped over to using the same core underlying piece of software. But it does not have all those features, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, it's pretty much the same thing, but I don't get to use themes on it. Like, I can't just carry stuff over. I can't use the same plugins. The editor is different. Like, I understand
These are all Microsoft products, right?
Yes.
That's why.
SSMS is a Microsoft product. Visual Studio is a Microsoft product. Theoretically, they're both built on the same
No, you
core.
can't-
No, the teams don't talk with each
You
other.
can't make that.
It's just
Microsoft has a great collaboration
aggravates me
platform
so much.
that multiple teams can communicate with each other, but none of their internal teams on the development side talk with each other.
So
Not a
I
single
can
one.
They have
can
a bet.
confirm this.
yeah, they have a bad habit.
oh no, I
of
believe
doing
it.
this with all their apps.
I believe
Yeah.
it. So, like, I can have a beautiful, not just a dark theme, like a default dark theme, but a beautiful theme that I can install on Visual Studio that I can't install on SSMS because, for whatever reason, the teams don't talk to each other.
Yep.
They don't share a code base. They don't, like, I don't know. I would love to visit someday to see, or just have an interview with, the teams to see why.
You don't.
One
Why?
of the one
You don't.
one of the
Why?
teams is probably based in California. Another one of the teams is probably based in Houston. Another of the teams is in India, and they all did different things.
You're missing
So-
one country.
The funny thing is,
Oh, I'm sure I'm missing more than one.
the funny
country.
thing is that you have Visual Studio, which is the IDE, the main, that's the flagship, and then you've got SSMS, which is the database side of things, they're doing the same thing with Visual Studio Code and Azure Data Studio. Visual Studio Code is becoming the thing to go to as far as at least an editor, and you can use it
No,
for.
It's more than just even that now, because Microsoft's back end new PowerShell updates they're in for Azure is on that side. All the core libraries in it now.
Okay.
Because they're getting rid of all the legacy stuff.
So for VS Code, you've got VS Code, and then the Azure Data Studio, which it's the same thing.
It's
You've
identical.
It's Azure Data Studio is built off of VS Code.
Okay.
But you can't do everything that you can do in VS Code, at least as far as like plugins and stuff goes, because they're not 100%.
The plugin libraries are actually different.
Why
Feature
would they
parity.
design
It's
two products
stupid.
that would compete with
It's
each other?
absolutely ridiculous.
Different implementation practices, but that all can be resolved as if you look at your entire code base and what you're attempting to make these platforms do. It wouldn't be that hard to build the rock, like as they already have, the main code base, and then all the differentiating factors are just plugins. It wouldn't be that hard.
But then they wouldn't have
like if
multiple
they had the
products to
same
sell.
core and then
Yeah.
everything's built around. Now, this wouldn't be an issue if I didn't have to use different credentials for database stuff and then just regular, like I've got my daily driver.
Well, yes,
Um,
but that's a security
'cause if I
reason.
could-
I understand.
Yeah,
why.
no, I get that, and it adds a little bit of overhead. So there's more than just doing stuff because that's the way that it's supposed to be done. Like
Well,
you use this for coding and this for
because the
SQL
database
stuff.
is handling its own authentication, right?
It's both. I can explain it off air. There's no reason to explain it on air. But anyway, there's I have two different sets of credentials, so I have to run either ADS or SSMS as these
Either one of those
credentials,
accounts, yeah.
and then I can just run everything else normally. If I could run everything normally, then this wouldn't necessarily be an issue because there are built-in tools to Visual Studio to manage stuff on the database side of things. So if I just want to run like queries or whatever, I could have done that. And then same for Visual Studio Code on that side of things, instead of having to fire up Azure Data Studio. And there's all sorts of reasons why I would want to use VS Code or Visual Studio, aside from just dark theme. But it really irks me that they're supposed to be pretty much the same product, but they're not the same product. They're
Now
the database side of things is a worse product.
You are getting my day-to-day
As
frustrations
far as
that I have.
as far as
with
Microsoft is concerned, this is the way.
Yeah. You have absolutely no idea how long this has been going on, because I've had this frustration now for 12 years with them.
See, you actually mentioned something that surprises me. They're actually sunsetting old code.
They're not sunsetting the old code. They are sunsetting the old variable names for the old code. The code's the same. The variables are different.
Oh, the code will remain
Yes.
in perpetuity.
The code will remain until morale improves.
Yeah, it's their big push and how they're technically not rebuilding PowerShell, but they're uplifting PowerShell. They're having to completely redo the libraries and the variable database as part of that. Also, with everything they're currently doing in the big platform push that they're doing on Azure's end of how they're trying to revamp it to be a bit more scalable than where it is even right now. That's causing all of the existing plugins to pretty much be fully out of date. So you have to update all your plugins. You're having to update PowerShell. You're having to completely revamp and redo all of the existing scripts that you have because the variable names and the variable layout is completely different. The libraries that you originally used are now different. The plugins you used to use are now different. So it's pretty much anything that you used to have existing for your automation inside of Azure that you did via PowerShell has to be completely rebuilt and redone.
When I had a conversation with somebody about
They have a
this,
translator, by the way, but the translator hasn't been working for me at all.
I had a conversation about this today with
Not
somebody. Slightly different, but fairly similar example within Microsoft's ecosystem. So, way back when, Microsoft developed a file system called NTFS, which is a great file system. It is a fantastic file system.
It's not bad.
It allows for very, robust and granular permission sets within a file system, right? They've had this for a long, long time, been implemented in Windows and, Windows file structure a long, long time. They created 365, they created Azure, they created all doing all this cloud stuff, and there are storage mediums within this cloud infrastructure they developed. Most notable that most people know is SharePoint, right? So SharePoint's a thing that stores files kind of like Windows, right?
No.
And yet they didn't bother
Online.
using their wonderful, amazing NTFS file structure, the bones of it,
Okay.
Yeah.
in how you implement permissions in SharePoint.
SharePoint Online, there is a difference. Original SharePoint was much closer to the NTFS permission
is
subsets that
worse.
they had.
The fact that they got rid of it, or the
They-
fact that they watered it down even after the fact.
It's simplified for a reason because you.
And I'm not going that deep into the argument. I'm just saying
You
that
have to reinvent the wheel every 10 years, Stephen. You don't understand.
Apparently.
You have to reinvent the wheel. You're not getting it.
But no, that's just, you have a storage medium and a storage medium from the same company that stores things. By and large, it does
Yeah.
a very similar function. And I would actually compare it more so to like a file server, like a local server running, file storage, and then SharePoint. But sort of SharePoint has a much, much, much more watered down, less capable permission set, and cannot nearly do the same things that like a file server or some of the Azure storage,
Which
can
is
do.
why they introduced Azure Files.
Oh my god, I know.
Hey, we made a worse product in our product stack, so let's make a slightly better product in our terrible product stack because we didn't do it right the first
Yeah,
time.
the hilarious
That's
thing
how
is
they
like,
do everything.
a lot of the vendors and engineers that I spoke with, actually at a previous webinar I attended, the hilarious thing of when SharePoint was mentioned, the conversation immediately went from SharePoint to, yeah, we moved all of our clients to Azure Files, and it's been phenomenal.
Nice.
Like, I hate y'all. Because I'm moving everyone right
Awesome.
now to SharePoint because I want the simplicity. I don't want to have people follow the bad habits that they've had inside of the NTFS filing system. and
Everything
File
goes in
Explorer.
the
It
downloads
is,
folder.
It is, yeah.
Everything goes in the downloads
not
folder.
not that. It's more because I know how to fix that. That's easy policy. I've done it for years. That's not an issue. My issue is there's a lot of bad habits that people have had where your network drive that you've attached is a dumping ground. SharePoint is very easy to force people into a workflow of going, you only have access to this SharePoint, and this SharePoint. These are for storing this type of data subset for these projects, this type of data subset for these projects, and this type of collaboration for your other teams. That's where all this information goes. So it's very, from the management side and the forcing the users into a specific workflow side, it's great. Azure Files, on the other hand, it's like the older NTFS file sharing where you have file shares laid out with this permission subset that you have your previous deny rules that everyone loves so much. And now you're back to a very similar, okay, how do you keep everything straight and narrow the way it's supposed to be?
I would agree with your sentiment of using it as a tool for subtle user training, not necessarily blatant on the surface user training.
It's like
No,
the bumpers
user
on a
retraining.
bowling alley.
Yeah, it's definitely I'm putting on the training wheels for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
How
yeah.
you should work inside a file system because
That's fair.
Azure Files is phenomenal. I do love it. It has its use cases, especially in our organization. It's great for that. But when it comes to, I want people to collaborate and work on specific files in a specific manner and have them shared in a very specific way, Azure Files is not really built for that mentality. SharePoint is. And so forcing the users into that model first is the gateway to get them into the Azure Files platform whenever they're mature enough to be able to handle it.
So you graduate from preschool to
Yes,
Yes.
elementary. Okay.
it's great. It's a good tool for that because then you kind of know, and I always delineate it between,
Sorry, buddy, you're getting held back a grade.
yes,
Yeah, we've got some
SharePoint
of those.
is the business front. Azure Files is the enterprise backend. That's where, in my view, the more important, crucial day-to-day data needs to be in there. So things like, I don't know, large exports, database files, reports, things of that nature that are more kind of set in stone or you just need a actual dumping ground, put it there. SharePoint is very purposeful. It's very meaningful. It's meant to have something that multiple people should be working on this. Multiple people should be keeping different versions of this. It should be shared out. It should be used in a manner that a end user Joe Schmo from off the road should be able to come in, know what this is, know how it works, know how it should operate, and say, you exist in this bubble. You are allowed to be in only this bubble. Anything past that is not your concern.
This is after Joe Schmo performed his man-in-the-middle attack and gained access to their SharePoint?
That's not allowed either. That's illegal. You can't do that, Steve. Joe Schmo has to go through proper authorization,
Proper
onboarding,
Yep.
user training, and then has to work under their manager. Joe Schmo is not a manager, obviously.
We would hope not.
I mean, unless you work for an organization that does that, where they hire managers off the street.
If you
Instead
do,
of
you
hiring,
should ask them
instead of
questions.
promoting from within, they just hire from without, and then that's. I
But that's the
could complain
corporate
a lot
way.
about that. It is the corporate way, but
Modern corporate way.
So, I have a to
Messy
close this
transition.
out. I do have a little transition. I have a little thought experiment for everyone to close this out.
I don't like thinking.
Well, I think you'll like this one, or you'll hate it, or both. So
I like that you added an L to that word.
you know, we've talked about user habits and well, just user bad habits. There's a lot of
Mhm.
users that have a lot of bad habits, right?
Okay.
But a lot of times there's kind of themes to some bad habits, some recurring stuff, and kind
There's
of
a method to the madness.
categorize some of it. I've had a thought the other week and want to propose the idea of digital messy desk syndrome.
Okay.
So I, in practice, have a physical messy desk, both at home and at work.
Yes, you do.
My desk is perpetually messy. That's how it is. I don't want to hear a word. But there's an organization to my mess. Certain mess goes in certain places. I'm one of those people that I know where things are amongst the chaos. So I always have, both on my desk at work and at home, I have my little section underneath the monitors that is where the sticky notes and the notepads and the scratch notes go.
Mhm.
I have the section where junk that I bring into the room that should have been put where it needed to go but never makes it there goes. And then I have the section for like pens and like some whatever utensils that might
Accumulate.
accumulate on the desk where those go. And then if there's any decorations, well, there's usually not many decorations, but they have their place.
Get the little cactus.
No cacti.
Get your cactus.
I don't want a cactus. Why would I want a cactus?
You could keep it alive. Just like put a little water in it every couple of weeks.
Yeah, no,
No,
probably wouldn't happen.
No, this man kept tomatoes alive last year for a
I
little
did
bit.
keep tomatoes. I got 2 maters out of them.
He did
Out
good.
of my 4 plants. I would have gotten 6. Stupid squirrels hadn't got them. Anyway,
Time to
so
start,
those are my
time to
physical.
start shooting the squirrel.
Those are my physical desk spaces. Well, I believe that practice follows me into the digital world because I have a somewhat similar method in my web browsers that always stay open, never get closed. I do update them periodically.
You don't wait till the
Wow.
button turns black.
But as you know and as you hate, I'm a Google Chrome user, and Google Chrome implemented something a while back called tab groups, and I religiously use tab groups. So I have at work I have a personal tab. It's the stuff that I probably shouldn't have open at work, but I do.
This is Reddit, YouTube.
Reddit,
Facebook.
YouTube,
Don't tell
personal email
do
stuff
not
like that.
tell your admin
It's
that.
fine. You could find out anyway if you wanted to. I still wouldn't care. Anyway,
If this
Well,
is
I now know.
If this is an enterprise organized,
please,
or
it's not like
I mean,
everybody
obviously, I
doesn't
use
have it.
YouTube
Organized
for
browser.
educational purposes.
All of my stuff is work related, open on the work machine.
So then I have
All of
a
it.
work tools tab group. So that's where I have our remote access stuff. It's where I have our SharePoints, where I have, that kind of stuff. And then I have a tab group for our like ticketing software, all that kind of stuff. And it's so that as the tabs grow, and I don't need something at the moment, like I'm doing my timesheet at the end of the week, I can just close all the other groups and it spreads out those. It doesn't make it feel as cluttered. But everything's in its place. It's all messy. Like if I open them all up, my one browser window looks similar to one of your browser windows, Jonathan. He just has multiple of them that are
7.
ridiculous. But I can narrow it down. I can organize the mess a little bit better. So I just wanted to propose that thought experiment to can we think of other examples of normal user behavior that can be classified as messy desk syndrome, digital messy desk syndrome?
Any Mac user.
I would agree with that, actually. You mean the syndrome of I open a window, it never has to be minimized ever?
Not only that, but
I never have to look at my desktop
They don't
ever again
maximize
after I
them
set the
either.
picture.
I think not
only that,
minimizing it is one thing, but not maximizing it is
Yes,
even worse.
that too.
but also the files that are just everywhere. They're not organized at all. They're not even like in rows or anything. There's just looks like somebody took a pile of papers and threw it on.
Yeah, they
the
figure
desktop.
out how the operating system handles saturating the number of file icons, and it starts stacking them behind each other. I saw a funny meme of a Mac user like seeing their desktop for the first time in months and seeing that, like, it was no joke, the entire desktop was saturated with its number of icons that it can handle, and every single icon was stacked like 5 to 10 deep. And they had a slight mental breakdown when they saw it, because they're like, I had no idea. I don't know how did this happen? It's like, yeah, this was what happens when you don't ever create a folder ever.
Hey, better the desktop than the downloads folder.
Disagree.
I don't know.
Hard disagree.
I don't think
I
so.
would agree, if for no other reason than in some operating systems, like I know Windows does, the downloads folder can be considered a temp folder. So if you go in and clear out
Not
your
by
temp
default,
files, the downloads folder can be included in that. So if you're saving stuff to your desktop, you're not subject to accidentally
Like in
deleting
Windows,
a bunch of
like
stuff.
in
I'm booted
Windows
into
file
Linux right
cleaner?
now, but I can go take a look. Like if you go to settings on Windows and then you go to like storage or files or whatever, and then there should be an option to delete your temporary files. The downloads folder should be one of the options there.
I also don't think
is it
downloads.
selected by default?
I don't
That's the big question.
think so,
then
but
that shouldn't
for
be
users, they will find a way.
okay, if you're not wrong. Still though, I mean that's still a
So by definition, I think the desktop folder would be better than the downloads folder, because you can also right-click hide icons on the desktop, on both Mac and PC, I believe.
then what's the point of
Well, you have a folder that you dump everything into. Okay, there's no point. It's just,
Everybody knows if you're just going to dump stuff into a folder, it's supposed to be the recycle bin.
oh, that's
because
even worse.
that's your archive folder.
That's even worse.
I wish I was kidding.
Your archive.
I wish that wasn't a thing that users have done and thought was okay.
Well, it's
Like,
because
completely okay.
it's Microsoft calls it the recycle bin. It's not the trash can. It's the
That is
recycle
actually
bin.
I will concede on that. I do agree with the nomenclature of
Recycle
Mac
bin.
OS.
The world is run out of spreadsheets saved in downloads folders.
Not even true.
Google Drives.
They are saved in spreadsheets that Excel didn't close properly, so they open up in a temp form, and they
Oh
ask
my
you every
God.
time, "Do you want to view these
Yes,
files?"
I had to do that.
Do you want to
today.
view this file? Do you want to recover your last cells that you were operating on?
I
Do you?
may.
This is in protected view. Protected view. This is a protected view. Do you want to disable the protected view?
Enable editing, yes or no?
My favorite is whenever you enable editing and it says, "Sorry, you can't do that."
I'm sorry, Dave.
I haven't run into that in a while.
You're not updating last week's sales numbers today.
So I will say I have like 20 Excel temp folders on the side that are still technically open. Why? Because they're all the same spreadsheet that I keep editing and saving, and it keeps going like, well, we'll keep the old version if you just want it. It's amazing. I love Excel. It's the best thing ever. I should move to Access.
Yeah, definitely should.
You know what?
More feature rich.
After my last few days in Power BI, Excel would be a cleanser.
I'm considering learning at least some of Dynamics for a few of the reports that I do. I'm considering it.
Dynamics is an interesting. I mean, because it's a hold on. ERM.
Yes.
Is that right?
ERP.
Okay. ERP. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I knew it was ER or something.
What does ERP stand for?
I don't actually know. I just know it's ERP.
I had looked it up the other day. I can't think.
I want to say it's like entity relationship. I don't know what the
Oh.
P stands for.
That is not my area.
It is.
Burp.
It is.
Power BI broke a rather important part of itself the other day. Well, if you have a 4K screen,
Enterprise Resource Planning software.
if you have a 4K screen, you could not apply theme changes. So if you wanted to if you wanted
Suffering
to go
from success.
right,
Love it.
if you wanted to go change your dashboard theme from one to another or whatever, for easy color coordination, you literally couldn't do it for 2 weeks.
That's something funny I had back when I was first learning Python, because I was learning in the off the living room PC connected to the 4K TV. I had all
Because
my
you do all your work off of your couch.
Yes, it's amazing. You're just jealous.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a little bit. So I was doing my training out there, and had everything saved on the 4K format.
Soon,
It was great.
Steven, soon.
Eventually,
Soon enough.
the problem was when you take the 4K formatting on that template and then you put it down to a 1080p formatting, it doesn't translate well, or better yet, it doesn't translate at all, and that file is now permanently corrupted.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Wait, huh?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
That seems...
Listen, if you want your software to break, hand it to me.
I want anything to
think
break
we've
handed to
learned that.
John.
Another thing that Power BI does that really pisses me off is you will set a color for a visual. So let's say I create a bar chart and I set 5 different colors that aren't actually in line with the theme because the user wants these specific colors. It will, after you publish it, it will override what you've done and just change it to some random color after you've published it.
Love to see it.
Because it knows better.
Well, speaking of things we love to see, Matthew, we have a question for you. Couple episodes ago, we all came together around Steven's single complaint on his perspective of self-checkout.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, my little mini rant.
Your little mini rant that you had. That was highly entertaining. Matthew, as somebody who many moons ago
Worked retail.
worked retail and had to manage self-checkout, what is your opinion of it?
From a management side of
Qualifying
things.
question.
Go for it.
In your time having to manage this area, had they implemented the new overhead camera theft management system where it would like catch you doing something and like block the screen, like where it would catch you doing something and it would freeze the machine until somebody came over and cleared it?
Is that a thing?
That's a thing.
Where-
It's been a thing for a bit.
Where? See, so when I was at the Big Blue or Green, at the time it was Green for me because I worked at a neighborhood market. The cameras that were there it was sitting right above the display on the self checkout. It was just like a little screen with like the little bitty camera at the top of it.
Like eye level.
Yeah, about eye level that was facing you and said, you're being recorded, blah blah blah. Those were not actually hooked up to anything. It was just a selfie cam.
Just a deterrent.
Is
yeah.
what it was. That's all that it was. So yeah, I haven't seen these things that you're talking
Oh
about.
yeah. No,
That's interesting.
And this has been this has been probably 2 years ago. And I can't remember which one I was at. But yeah, I was checking out, and I mean I was going relatively quickly because I'm can do
Impatient.
that. Well, and I'm capable of doing that.
Are you?
Yes.
Apparently the camera didn't think so.
So I went a little too fast for it, and I was beep, beep, and I went beep, and then all of a sudden the border of the screen turned red, and it said something about the contents of the bags don't match the something or something, blah blah blah. There's something missing here. Please wait for an associate.
Oh, so that's not the camera. So what that is
No,
that
it showed me a video.
I've had that
of
happen
me,
to me.
Like,
a top-down
it'll
video
show
of me
you.
scanning.
But that's not the camera. It's the some of the bagging areas on self checkouts will have a scale built in.
Mhm.
So as you're scanning stuff, the register is keeping track of what the
What that
weight,
weight
should
should
be.
be.
So that's not even a camera thing. That's just that technology has been around
But
for
it
a
showed
while.
but it
There's-
showed me a video of me scanning the products, and it showed the instance where it said, "I don't recognize that as a."
That's cool.
Yeah,
I've
as I
never
said,
seen that.
The latest versions that I've
Because,
seen
well,
do have
and
the
it didn't
camera.
just show me that the attendant came over and put in their code, and then it showed them the video of me scanning, and they recognized that I just scanned two things. Like I basically had both things in my hand, and
Yeah.
I went boop boop, and it caught it. It triggered it.
That's an illegal move.
Yeah, and so she just saw that I did like
penalty.
boop boop. Okay, there's the stuff. Yeah, you're good. Boop, you're good. And then I kept on
Flag
going.
on the play. Yeah.
So anyway, I was just wondering if before just if
That-
that
I-
had been around, when
I
you
haven't
were,
ever had to manage something like that, so that's nice. The only time we had to step in was if the scale was being wonky, which happened all the time, where it would be like, you need to reset the scale, or if somebody's buying alcohol or something like that. Like that was the thing. So from a management standpoint, I hated it, absolutely hated it. I would rather just be on a register or just have people working registers. Did not like doing self checkout.
Why?
So this can turn into a very long rant. The way that
You have a few minutes.
the Big Blue had things set up is that you had one person, and it depends on the time and then what location you're working at. But typically, the rule of thumb was like one person per 4 to 6 registers, which typically doesn't. And in normal operating procedure, it's fine. Like, it doesn't make too much of a difference. But when it gets busy, and you're already having to man the manned registers on top of the self-checkouts, it was a headache. It was a huge headache.
So even though that
Um,
there's I don't know if this is written down anywhere, but a apparent SOP of one attendant per X number
Standard
of,
operating procedure for the people that don't know.
yeah, for per X number of registers. I'm assuming that there's a reality of that where it either can't be done most of the time or is preferred by uppers not to be done most of the time, because that very rarely ever happens. I mean, I've been to many of these stores in many different areas.
Most of the
and
time
that
it's
doesn't
fine,
happen.
especially for a small mart. It's fine. It doesn't matter because you're not. You
But if that's a standard
don't have that
operating
much,
procedure, then why isn't the standard
traffic.
operating procedure followed?
Well, so the standard operating procedure is typically undercutting what is actually required, because they're like, oh, well, standard operating procedure says we only need. I think the last time I saw it, it was like one person per 8 self checkout, which is a decent amount of square footage to cover.
Yeah.
And if you have some needy people, that's kind of a pain, and it's a worse experience for the shoppers. So that it's just it was dumb. Self checkouts had a lot of headaches. I don't understand how they don't increase theft. I still wholeheartedly believe that they do. Shrink
Oh, they're
becomes
definitely
more of a problem
yeah.
when you're
There's a
dealing with
in other areas
self-checkouts.
like in my hometown, the store there, I think my dad was telling me the other day, they pretty much consistently have it down to, I think they have the, not the full stable like you would see in a lot of the stores here, the bigger ones. They probably have like a half. It's probably checkouts total, something like that in the stable. But they only have about 3 of them open at any given time, and only 1 of them takes cash ever. So
Sounds about right.
two of them are
Like
card
after
only. One's cash.
2020, yeah, cash became
Because this particular store I
Oof,
know
kinda
has had some really bad theft issues.
Mhm.
So no, I can understand that. Most of what I was talking about spoke on the consumer side of things, and I'm fully capable. I like doing things myself, and I'm fully capable of doing this process, in my opinion, better and faster than any checkout person. So just let me do it.
Nope. I guarantee you, there's one checkout person who's way faster.
Somebody that can do it faster,
No.
yeah.
If you say
No,
Aldi, I
no.
freaking swear.
Aldi. I was gonna say Aldi.
Get outta
yes.
here.
I'm talking about a human
Aldi's
being. I'm
way
not talking
faster.
about a
You're
store.
fired.
No,
No,
they're
you want
way
to know why
faster.
Aldi's
Oh,
faster?
boy.
You want to know why Aldi's
Because you
faster?
bag it yourself.
They
It's
don't have
amazing.
to bag jack squat.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And now this is a point in their favor. Their products are designed to have barcodes on multiple sides, so you don't have to be precise.
Correct.
So their cashiers are not better than
Yes, they are.
cashiers
Guaranteed.
because
They're just giving shortcuts.
they're giving
It's
shortcuts.
better efficiency.
No,
Way more efficient.
somebody
overall
still
process.
has to bag the
Or if-
groceries.
Or if
That's
you just
you.
learn
If you do
roughly where the
self-checkout, guess
barcodes
what?
are.
You're scanning and bagging.
Guess what?
But at
Barcodes are usually on the
Walmart, I
bottom.
have the bags. They give me the bags.
There's some Aldis that actually have self checkouts now too.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be so much
yes, I've been
Yeah.
to one.
So and then also to Aldi, the cashiers are actually judged by how many items per minute they scan. Like that as part of
We
their...
were judged by that too, but guess what? We had to bag the items too. We had to.
You're just mad you
Bagging
couldn't
items
sit
isn't
down
hard.
and scan your
I
items.
am kind of mad that I didn't get to sit down. That's the only
Bagging's
thing that they have on us is they get to sit down.
I'm sorry, and y'all, and you can call me whatever, but none of this is an argument for anything. Any of those tasks that you've just described, not hard at all.
Okay,
Like
real
bagging
quick.
things, not hard.
Can
Scanning
we
things,
why
can
not
we get
hard.
a can we
Minimum
get
wage job.
a man on the job kind of thing? Can I take him to a
do we need to
supercenter?
bring in an
I
expert?
was a cashier at the store that we're referring to for a month and a half in between jobs, but I was a cashier. I
Month and
did
a
it in DFW at a very busy store. So
Okay,
yeah, no, I have personal
at
experience with
an
this.
Aldi store or Walmart store.
At
Okay,
Okay, so hold up. I want
how
you-
many items are you supposed to put in a bag? Do you remember?
First of all, they never gave us that metric. They didn't care. There was just
So
kind of
the
there was
general-
a general like if it's got a bunch of stuff in there, double bag it. I had
You
to
actually
do.
weren't supposed
I
to
had to
double bag
work
stuff.
on the day on the wick and the price. I was back in the price match days when I'd have the family come in, the mom and the daughter,
No, I
with
remember
2
those
carts
days.
each,
Mhm.
where they were price matching against the inexpensive grocery store across town,
Mhm.
and they had 4 entire carts of vegetables and meat that you had to price match almost every single one of them.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, been there, done that.
Okay, I also want Matthew to point out something that you told me once upon a time.
Okay.
That at least
Aldi's cashiers are not better than. So I
no,
want that on the record.
no, that's not what you were telling me.
We need a game show,
The
Cashier Wars.
that at least when you were working it, the self checkouts you said were speed limited compared with
Yes.
manned registers.
Yeah,
Elaborate on
they
that.
were a lot slower. Like as far as registering stuff, because like if you work behind a register, right, a real in quotation marks register, and you are scanning items and stuff, you get a feel for how fast it will register something, the delay that you have to account for. Like it becomes second nature.
You become
Transitioning
the
from
additional machine.
yeah, transitioning from a real, again in quotation marks, register to a self checkout, you notice that there is a significant delay in between
I have
scanning an
noticed that.
item and then when you can scan the next item, and it still annoys me to this day because it is just
There's no excuse
there's
for
a
it.
good like
This is half a second at least.
it's at least a second, sometimes 2 seconds in between when you scan the item and when you can scan the next item. And these aren't weighed items. Like I get those taking a little bit longer because you have to set it on the scale, you know,
just
all that
get
business.
impatient people like me. I sit there and just do this. For
Yeah,
a
it's
second,
just and
it
if
finally
it
goes.
for bulk items, if it would bulk as in bulk quantity, if it had a better interface for entering a quantity. So let's say I have like a case of tuna, right? I've got 12 cans. Instead of scanning each can individually, I hit quantity, number, scan the can.
But
and
that kind of does go back to the whole theft conversation, I would imagine.
that you can do that on a self checkout, but you have to click into a couple menus to get to it. And by the
they're
time
probably
that
trying to discourage
that
that.
everything registers, the taps and the inputs and
But
all
again,
that,
you're an
you
insider.
might as well just scan
You're an
everything.
insider, and so you kind of have that thought. Probably this
Yeah.
should be a thing to a normie in this case. They don't have that thought process, and they're probably trying to discourage that. They would like you to guide you towards you need to scan every single one of these so that we can verify you paid for every single one of these. That's my opinion.
My opinion on self checkouts is that the self checkout should only be what I used to have for the 20 item or less.
The express
lane.
Yeah.
Anything
They
else?
never policed that.
The express lane
Sure,
where they put
but-
the oldest, slowest cashier.
Yeah. The
Fair.
anything else should go through a normal lane because the self checkouts that they have for the you know more full baskets, 20 items plus whatever, they just aren't made to be. They in theory are, but
From a
I hate 'em.
space
I absolutely
perspective, they're
hate 'em.
pretty efficient.
Sure,
From a
from a-
usage
yeah, from
standpoint,
a-
they're not.
That's what I'm saying.
What annoys me is they took out all the registers with belt. Used to, the self checkouts would have belts on them.
I feel like I've seen one in the wild. Yeah, no, they're not nearly as many. I used to see more as well. I feel like I saw one recently though.
There's still
A
some at
different
the
part of the
Bougie Mart, I
state.
think.
Like the store that I worked at, we had 4 self checkouts with belts, and then they replaced those with same thing without the belt, so you had less space to put your groceries. Which
The
was really
Aldi
annoying.
self checkouts do have belts.
And then Yeah, I think I remember seeing that. Our Aldi doesn't have belts or self checkouts. Well, they have belts, but they don't have self checkouts. But anyway,
Your Aldi is also very small and very old.
My biggest point that I was making, at least in my rant, is not so much yes or no self checkout. It was more so widespreadness of self checkout.
as a consumer, I don't mind the self checkout. I like the self checkout.
I think it's great. Like
It has its
I would
place.
never say, and I think I iterated this point. You know, I'm not of the opinion get rid of cashiers. Not
Yeah.
in the slightest. Give me the option of self checkout.
Yeah.
All the places. Like,
I had a big problem with one of our local that completely did away with every single cashier.
that.
It was
Yeah.
only self checkout when I walked in, and I just looked around, and it was kind of like the Taco Bell we walked into earlier today,
Yeah.
where there was no cashier. It was
There were
just
5 self checkouts
yeah.
or
Yeah.
like 5 self service ordering machines, whatever
No,
you want to call
and
them.
that's like because then you're going to get people like my dad, and you know, bless his heart. I think he is capable of using self checkout now. I'm in the beginning he was not, and he was not willing. And yeah, you will have to deal with the attendants. Will have to deal with those people, and it's usually just better time spent on all sides if you just have at least 1 or 2 cashiers.
Yeah.
For the people who, by golly, I want someone to check out my stuff.
I think my favorite part is every time to Ian's point, every time that they have tried to put in 100% self checkouts, they've like backed off it 6 months later and put in belts.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Speaking of every single time, thank you for listening to Hostility in the Morning podcast. I've been your host, John, joined here today by
Nathan.
Matthew.
Steven.
Ian.
And if you guys want to continue interacting with actual humans, you can find us on X/Twitter, known as @HITM Show, Instagram, and the Faceboall is at Hostility in the Morning. If you want to listen to us, interact with us in our main chat, you can find us at hostilityinthemorning.subsex.com. And last but not least, Matthew's most important interaction we have currently on the show is
hostilityinthemorning.com. All of these options are self-service. All right, we're not going to go click the like button or the subscribe button or the follow button or fill out your email for you. You have to do that yourself. There are no cashiers in this instance.
that is very true. And remember, have a hostile morning.